I'm going to cut out the beginning of the last uh, podcast and post it on TikTok.
Okay.
Okay, go.
Hi, guys. Thank you for joining. This is Essence of History, and today we're talking about guns. I'm Amanda Armagast.
Namda Krabasi for Essence. What an interesting topic, huh? A pacifist and a doctor talking about guns, but it is an interesting topic.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic. I think, especially coming from Americans,
Yeah.
guns are so common here in the US, and I guess like getting more and more free. Like, you
Mhm.
can, I
No,
think Florida just allowed to have even open carry.
yeah. Well, what country do you think has more weapon per um, population per capita?
What country do I think has the most?
Hmm.
US.
Yeah, I thought so too, but it is not. We just have the most gun violence, but we
Okay.
don't have the.
So then would the most be like somewhere like Russia or
No, actually, it's a very peaceful country. I
yeah.
heard. It might be just a TikTok. These days we get our information from TikTok, and you cannot always rely on that. But according to TikTok, the most number of guns per capita is one of the very most peaceful countries in the world, which I was very surprised about that. And because we don't hear them having shootouts and killing in the schools and so on and so forth.
Okay, so what country is it? Just say it.
It said Switzerland. That's what it was, the TikTok.
Yeah, I mean, according to Google AI, that's not even in the top 10.
This Switzerland is not in top 10.
No.
Yeah, you see, that's how you should be careful with taking TikTok as a source of your information. So what does Google,
This is
yeah,
just Google AI. I'm not deep diving anything, so let me just
okay.
read it to you. The United States has, by a wide margin, the most guns per capita in the world, with approximately 120.5 civilian owned firearms per 100 residents. That
So
is
yeah,
insane. That is actually
that we have
certifiably insane.
that we have more gun than people.
This means there are more guns than people in the US. Yeah, that's what it says. And so the next countries in the ranking have significantly lower rates. So I'll just read it to you. But no, okay, it says data from sources like the Switzerland-based Small Arms Survey. So Switzerland is involved. They did the survey, but maybe this is Switzerland. So the US is per capita. So this is per 100 people. The US is 120 per 100 people. The Falkland Falkland Islands, have you heard of that?
Yeah, that is or Granadas, where Argentina and Britain had a war in 1980s. Yeah, I know where that is.
Okay.
But
They
that's a
have
small island. They have like few thousand people on it.
yeah, but they have 62 guns per 100 people there.
Hmm.
Yemen is number 3, 52.8 per 100. Number 4 is New Caledonia,
New Caledonia, okay.
42.5 per 100. Serbia is 39. Canada is number 7 at 34. Uruguay, Cyprus, Finland. Finland
Okay.
is number 10. That's 32 guns per 100 people. So,
Now they have to traditionally, historically, always be afraid of their neighbor, Russia. So they are, and the same with Switzerland, actually. The Swiss has been always independent, non-aligned with anybody, and even Nazis didn't dare to invade them because every Swiss person goes to army, every Swiss person has a gun, and so on. And
wow.
so I'm surprised it's not among top 10. What does it say about the gun distribution? Because all civilians have gun in Switzerland.
Okay, let me look.
Yeah.
How many guns per capita in Switzerland? Switzerland has approximately 27.6 civilian firearms per 100 inhabitants.
Huh. That it's not what I thought. But you see, that's so gun. Let's talk about gun. Why are American so obsessed about their guns?
Well, because I think we're obsessed with our guns because we have the right to bear arms. So technically in our constitution, we're allowed to form small like local militaries or
Militia?
militias, a small militia
Hmm.
with our guns. And I think Americans are very big on independence, freedom, standing up for ourselves. So I think that that translates into wanting a gun so you can stand up for yourself, you can be independent if anything happens.
Yeah, there is a historical perspective here that we as in America, we consider having guns with the idea of freedom.
Yeah.
That is what it is, for freedom to bear arm and so on. But imagine when the people came here first, this was the only place you could go out and shoot an animal, not good for animal, but good for the people. You can shoot an animal and bring meat on the table. Do you know
In
how unusual it used to be in England or rest of the Europe? Because in the Europe and in England and the rest of the Europe, there was no land. Land always belonged to somebody. There was no public land. If it wasn't belonged to anybody, it belonged to the king. And guess what? If you would kill an animal on somebody else's land, it would called poaching. Do you know what? For a long time, what was the punishment for poaching? You would be hanged.
hanged, wow. I would have thought imprisonment.
No, you would be hanged.
Wow.
Poaching would be punished by hanging in England and most of Europe. And now imagine the people who would not dare to go and hunt. All of a sudden, they could be in the United States, land, animals everywhere. And we destroyed them, most of them by now, but you could go and shoot a deer and bring it, put it on the table, and you can eat meat. Do you know how unusual it was for European to have meat and even good meat, fresh meat, and so on? Extremely unusual. Now, the idea that now all of a sudden you move from restrictive England, now you come here. First thing, you can practice whatever religion you want. Number second, you can go shoot animal and eat them, and nobody will hang you for that. That is where our idea of freedom is so encapsulated in the idea of owning gun, because that you need a gun to go and shoot an animal. Now it gets when Britain they found out that oh, these people have guns and shoot animals, but guess what? If we start fighting, the same gun they are shooting animal, they may use it against us. They try to literally limit that. And but that was around the same time that we wanted our independence. So and so what we do? We tried to pretend that oh we need the guns for militia, that we have the right to for militia to fight against this very dictatorial way England deal with us and so on. But in more or less, it was already there. The idea that you have the freedom and go and kill an animal and feed your family is ingrained in the idea of being an American, being in America, being able to now obviously when you have the gun, you use it as well for other things than just hunting. But and that idea of hunting is still ongoing, right?
Oh yeah.
In Minnesota, in certain time of the year, you cannot find anybody working.
Oh, where I went to school, when I went to school in the country for a little bit, we actually had days off for hunting.
Can you imagine that? That is how ingrained is that idea of owning a gun. Now, how many of those people who own gun actually go still hunting now? Very few.
I wouldn't say very few. I think hunting is a huge cultural thing here. I mean,
It is.
even in our own office, we have gun owners who go hunting.
Yes, but what percentage of your food comes from hunting?
But yeah, but that's a different question than the original proposed question.
Yes, well, the idea is here we don't rely on hunting anymore for our food. It is a sport more than a food
Yeah.
procurement.
Yeah, around 1/3 of Americans who own guns also hunt.
Yeah, and what percentage of American do own gun? Not everybody, probably what I would say 40%. But that 40%, like I know
But
few people who have a gun, like gun store. There's not just okay. What
So
percentage?
the stats are, so it's a two-parter. About 32% of American adults own a gun personally, but that means about 42% of American households own a gun. So maybe the husband does or the wife doesn't. But
Yeah, yeah.
I do really think after like the most recent events in the US, especially Minnesota, that number is rising because even me, a pacifist who would I would if I shot someone, I would need to go to therapy. Even I'm considering getting a gun.
Okay. Well, what I think is we are talking about firearms, obviously, firearms, and that's what we are talking about. The gun is the idea that you can kill an animal without you being in proximity of the animal, and the animal cannot harm you. That practically makes the no, for thousands, according to me, millions of years, the only way you could eat meat is you find a dead animal and you put yourself and your family at the danger of literally getting sick and die of it. By the way, that is the reason. Okay, this is very interesting thing. Have you seen somebody throwing up?
Yeah, of course, I've done it myself.
No, 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 no. But watching somebody throwing up or smelling it even,
Ew, yeah, no, I even just talking about it is bringing back bad memories.
no, no, it makes people throw up.
Yeah, I know.
Watching somebody to throw up is a biological response. Why does watching somebody throw up make you throw up?
Because they might have eaten something bad that you might have eaten.
Because for a long time we were in group of community that we had a dead animal, we all ate the same thing. If somebody is sick, it's just maybe you better throw it up as well. Throwing up was a natural thing, like these days we say, oh, my dog has a diarrhea or my dog throwed up after I fed. That is the natural way of life, eating life.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
It still is. But let's come back to that. Um, the idea here is that for a long time, the only way you could eat an animal or meat is that you find a dead animal and you put your entire group at the danger of eating a dead animal, or you go as a group and kill the animal. But sometimes the animal you want to kill and eat end up killing you.
Hmm.
And then we became much smarter with our hunting strategy. As a matter of fact, that is the reason humanity or human developed language. Because those groups that they could communicate together, they could hunt better. And that is a good indication now that we first developed the language before we could speak it. We developed a like gesture, hand, or what we call these days this sign language before we had spoken language. So we could communicate, and those genetic group that could better communicate, they could hunt better, they had better food because a live food that you kill is healthier than a dead animal that you find. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, and then we got smarter and smarter, and then we started um, having things that we throw, like stone. We throw a stone, but it's hard to kill an animal with throwing stone. Then we had the slingshot. Then we had a sharp weapon. We sharpened the stone, and then we had arrows. That was a huge deal. The first time we found a projectile kind of weapon, like a spear and bow and arrow, because bow and arrow, you spear, you cannot carry 10 spear with you, but you can carry 10 arrow with you. That really changed the entire humanity. As a matter of fact, there is few reason like why Mongols could capture almost the entire civilized world, almost, because they developed the arrow, bow and arrow that was small but powerful, and they learned to shoot it while they're riding a horse. That alone enabled them to capture the entire world. And then, around the same time, some very playful people in what we call now China mixed stuff, and they saw, wow, let this explodes. Let's make firework of it. Nice. nowadays mix charcoal and sulfur and a few other things. And then when the oxidator and a fuel, something that gives oxygen and something that gives fuel. If you combine them together, they burn by themselves. They don't need oxygen. Gunpowder. Now, interestingly, initially they invented it for ornamental firework and things like that. But then they noticed they can actually make rockets. Literally, you put it in a bamboo, you fire it, you start the fire from one place, and the material that comes from one end propels it further. And then they refined it up until we have around 15th century, we start having actual guns, the muzzle loaders and so on and so forth. And then the next step in the development was the so-called smokeless gun, because you might have seen those enactment of old thing and so on. It's so much smoke everywhere and so on. It's very unpleasant, actually. Very and then the next.
No, sorry to interrupt, but to me, every single thing about the gun is unpleasant. From the way it feels to the way it sounds to the way it kicks back at you. No,
And
the
yet
smell, no part's pleasant.
And yet you chose this as a subject of our podcast.
I don't have to like everything I talk about.
So, and the next step was actually to have this casing, the bullet. That was the next step. And now we are in the modern time of the guns, what we talk about. Now, imagine for a long time, you had a hand-to-hand combat, meaning that the bigger guys always wins. You have more muscle. You put a 60-pound, you put 100-pound and a 250-pound people fighting hand to hand. It doesn't matter how much technique that 100-pound guy has. Most of the time, the 250-pound guy will win. But now you put a pistol in their hand. Now they're equals. For that reason, actually, in most of the US, this pistol was called equalizer, meaning that now you don't have to be afraid of people who are bigger than you. You see, that's another aspect of the safety that we appreciate in the United States. We think that even though I'm much smaller, I don't go to gym every day, I still can protect myself. But statistically, we know people who own gun are more at danger to die or be injured than people who don't own a gun.
That's true.
Isn't it actually completely counterintuitive that actually people who own the gun, they are at higher danger to be killed or
No,
die? Well,
it's not counterintuitive to me because as an anti-gun, hey, phone away. As an anti-gun person, I can understand why having a gun would make you at more risk because now you have this extra layer of protection. So you're going to put yourself maybe into a more dangerous situation. And not only that, but if someone is attacking you and they see you have a gun and they also have a gun, now they're going to use their gun because
statistically it's clear. I mean, whatever the reason is, I don't really know. But statistically it's clear. People who own gun are at, I think, tremendous higher rate of getting injured or dying of violent actions than people who don't own a gun. So that's statistic. No matter what your stand or whoever is listening to it on the guns are, this is the statistic, undisputable statistic. But now let's come to here now. US is not the only place that you can legally own a gun. Obviously not. You saw that.
Yeah, we just saw that.
Okay, but I think it's something different with our psyche that we have more gun violence than anybody else. Even if you calculate the number of the gun per capita and so on, if you what we call stratify for all those variables, we have unbelievable higher rate of gun violence than anybody else on the planet. And that is, I think, something that we have to really work on as a society, what the reason is and how how, I mean, I hope we all agree that they are not good. That,
Yeah. Well, guns are good. I mean, if you're living, let's say you're living in the country, like on the ranch, you need a gun on the ranch because if you have livestock and a coyote comes and they're trying to get your livestock, and that's your food. That's
like
your
the coyote comes and start eating your dog, Lily.
or
Would you
like a
shoot it?
raccoon comes and eats my chickens. Like,
Would you?
let's say that's like if you're a farmer, if you're a rancher and your livestock is your livelihood
Yeah, yeah.
and a pack of coyotes comes to gets it,
So,
weren't we what I think I just watched a movie about that. You have to be able to kill the people the things attacking your livestock to protect yourself and your family.
okay, well, you remember I asked you once when a coyote comes and want to eat Lily, would you shoot the coyote? What did you say?
Well, Lily would have probably Lily's 10 pounds. She'll have terminal bleeding. Like she would not survive
No, no,
getting attacked by a coyote.
okay, but would you shoot the coyote? Would you shoot the coyote?
No, I wouldn't. But I'm not the right person to compare it
So-
to. I'm not the right person to compare because I'm thinking logically. But going back to what you said about other countries allow guns and like the US has such a high gun violence, I think we're not taking into account also the US has very lax gun laws in a lot of places. You can go to Walmart and buy a gun, and you're allowed to have automatic weapons in the US.
Yeah, yeah. Well, um, I think it's just a cultural thing. It's not just owning the gun. It is the idea that using a gun is an acceptable way of getting into a conflict. Because in other countries, like Germans are rude as hell, or French people are the rudest people on the planet. We are polite in compared to them. Like you remember when you were in Germany in the train station, and you want to describe that experience before I tell what I want to really say?
They were purposely unhelpful. I mean, I did,
Purposefully unhelpful.
yeah, purposely unhelpful.
Yeah, they are the rudest people, unhelpful, abrasive, and so on. But you never hear a French guy or a German guy stabbing or shooting somebody else. And they just
Well,
don't do that. They're just verbally abusive. They work on your brain so bad that you want to go hang yourself. But they don't actually act on a violence. We are very polite, but all of a sudden we are at the limit. We go over the limit. That's socially acceptable for us. So no, it is. Unfortunately, it is. It's socially acceptable, culturally acceptable for us to pick up a gun and point it at somebody.
actually, like I've known people who have been driving in their car, not caught like they did not think they were causing drama, and they had a gun pulled on them in the car driving.
Yeah, well, you see that there. We sort of we want to be polite and everything, but then once you go over a threshold, it's also socially, like we think it's acceptable to bring a gun to a conversation. And that is a problem we have to socially solve, that it's never okay uh, to have a verbal disagreement with a gun in the hand. And I think that is a level of, I think, a cultural maturity that maybe French, even though they are the rudest people, and Germans are even sometimes worse, I have the feeling. Let me tell you my story. When I was in the med school, I was in a hospital, and I have leg problem, right? My
Yeah.
is I have a problem. I have in a waiting area of the hospital
Where? Sorry, where?
in Heidelberg. And then I was a student. I was waiting for one of my course, and in just a regular area, I had my foot on a small desk to have it a little up. And the two young doctors, they're walking there, and they don't know if I'm a patient or not. They don't know who I am. They don't know nothing about that. And one of them with the accusatory face facing me while walking. Would you put your foot on the table on your in your house as well? And I said, yeah, I would. And then she's just grunting and the cursing and so on and so on. What is your business? I might be a patient who have my foot is bleeding or something. You don't know nothing about that. You're supposed to be a doctor, okay? And what is your business of with that anyway? It's not your house. It is not your property. It is a hospital, and I'm in the waiting area of the hospital and so on.
How
So,
dumb.
well, abrasive, but
Well, and that's a dumb question to even ask. Like, yeah, I would put my, obviously, like, I'll
but
put it somewhere else too.
or second thing, okay? I in this actually this was I'm not sure if it's just coincidence. I can tell you lots of stories. I take the elevator just for one level. One level, okay? I get in, I get the other level out. Four people are just coming down on me, taking the elevator just for one level and so on. Can you imagine that?
Well, I know Germans, so yes, I can imagine that.
So, eh, but they would never ever touch you or hit you or take a knife or a gun on you. They would just hit you, lash you with their nasty words and so on. Now,
Verbally.
but you see that there? That is the reason that foreigners don't ever feel home in Germany. They come here, we are polite, we are nice. But what is it? Somebody need to figure it out. Why is it that we are nice people? We want to help people. We help people. But all of a sudden, there are certain situations we pull something that is made to kill and we use it.
Well, if
So
you're genuinely asking me, are you actually asking me?
I'm asking,
Okay,
genuinely asking.
I'll tell you what I think about this. So I recently read a book called The Psychopath Inside, and it was very eye-opening. What are you laughing at?
Nothing?
It was very eye-opening to me because I think that, and I'm not saying psychopath in a derogatory way. I just want to put,
What? You are not?
no, I'm not. I think
Wow.
that a lot of people are walking around on this earth and they're just psychopaths. Not derogatory, but they don't really care about the impact that they have on others. They
Uh-huh.
don't care about the impact that they have on the planet. So I think that honestly, sometimes the excitement is what entertains them. So they're excited, like they have high adrenaline. They want to pull a gun on someone. They want to be in a fight. They don't really care about the outcomes because they're so excited about the feeling of the drama. And that's my genuine feeling on that.
Yeah. I intuitively have a hard time to believe that.
Well, you should
But
listen to the book. I really think that's a book you should read.
yeah, I will put it on my list. Um, I think there are certain situations, certainly, that you want to protect your family, yourself, and so on. And I think 99% of the time, the best way to protect yourself in those situations is not to get in those situations. Like
Diffuse.
somebody flipping you up on the street or in the car and so on, just move on, just go away. And or somebody is trying to, especially if you have your family with you, somebody is being nasty to you. Guess what? You have to deal with them just that moment. They have to deal with themselves their entire life. Just move on. That is that we have a name for that. We call it taking the high road, right?
Yeah, but your question was why do we have so much gun violence? And I think it's because a lot of people don't feel like taking the high road. Like, for example, my mom is deaf, so we can speak sign language to each other. When I was growing up, my mom didn't want to speak sign language in public because someone on the bus shot some deaf people because they were signing to each other,
Wow.
and that person thought that those deaf people were doing gang signs. So he killed them.
So somebody thought if there are gangs, you can just go kill them. So he did a gang thing because he thought they are gangs.
I mean, I don't know what his
Oh,
like what his I was really little when this happened and I remember my
yeah.
mom was really upset about it. But what I'm saying is people don't really care about the impact that they have sometimes. And not only that,
And
a
they're
lot,
psychopaths.
yeah, I think that a lot of people are just psychopaths.
So you're thinking the good amount of our society is made of psychopaths.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm telling you, we have those psychopaths in Germany and French, probably 10 times more in Germany and French are psychopaths, but they just destroy your psyche and they cause psychological damage on you
But
rather
what's
than physical gun-based
but
damage.
what's the process of obtaining a gun in Germany versus the process of obtaining a gun here?
You have a point there. You have a point. In Germany, to have a gun, first you have to join a hunting club. You have to go through tremendous amount of training, get a license, then you can own a gun, and then the gun can be used only in certain situation, has to be locked here and there and so on. As a matter of fact, this is another story that's true. I was doing 3 years of residency in neurosurgery in Germany. We had only one gunshot wound, meaning that this was a actually very tragic story. It was the it was the young boy, on his birthday, got the hunting rifle of his grandfather and accidentally shot himself. But we had to call, or we did call other doctors from other hospital to come and see that, because you would never see that, and people want to learn in medicine, neurosurgery, you need to know to deal with the gunshot wounds. And that was such a rare experience that surgeon from other hospital came to be part of the treatment to learn from that, because you don't get that experience. I started my neurosurgery residency in Galveston, Texas in 2002. And in the first week, I saw 40 gunshot wounds.
I just looked it up. In the US, on average, more than 300 people per day are injured by a gunshot wound per
And,
day.
and probably half of them in Texas, they live the Texas way. But what I'm getting at is that availability is a big factor.
In Texas in 2024, there were an average of 12 gunshot deaths per day.
And that gunshot death, not gunshot,
Deaths.
not gunshots. So you understand that the travesty of how cavalier we are with the gun and how we deal with it.
Yeah, so just so like 12 sounds like a small number, just to put that into perspective, just in Texas, 4,400 people died in 2024 from gunshot related injuries.
That is not a small number.
I know, but I'm saying like 12 sounds small when you hear it. 12,
Doesn't-
4,400 in
Did
1 year.
did you hear that in 3 years of neurosurgery in Germany, I saw only one gunshot wound?
Yeah, that's why I wanted to look up that statistic.
Yeah, that is so. The 12 dying a day is an unbelievable number. I
In
told
one
you
state.
in one state. I told you in Galveston. I mean, Galveston used to be a much less of a affluent area and so on, and close to us was as well the so-called Texas City. I'm not sure if people know that or not, but Texas City was the capital murder of the United States for a long time.
Yeah.
So I mean, I got a lots of experience from that, but the actual price was paid by lots of people there. And yeah, I think we need a cultural shift in our dealing with the gun. Like just even recently, we think it's okay to pull gun on people. It is not.
Mm-mm.
So yeah, what else do you want to talk about the guns?
So historically, have guns, when you shoot a bullet, you can do a ballistics test. You can compare the bullet to the inside of the gun because they all have a very specific pattern. Is that natural because of the way the gun is shaped, or did we do that on purpose so then we can track bullets?
We didn't do that on purpose to track the bullets and so on, but it is the so-called, you're talking about so-called ballistic.
Yeah.
It's a science. It's a science. It's a forensic science to identify if this bullet, number one, the kind of bullet, it's important for what kind of a gun it's shot off, but as well the sign and the shape and changes on the bullet can really indicate a lot of details. It's not one-to-one. It's not like for 100% you can say this bullet was shot with this 9mm gun and not by the other from a similar company and so on. But each of them have their own kind of residual effect on the surface of the bullet. And that is and we didn't make it to identify them. We made guns, and then we saw there's a pattern of like on the surface of the bullet that correlates with that, and then we used it to do forensic, who shot it, and so on and so forth.
I think one thing that I find really interesting but disturbing about guns is the way that they've evolved and the way that we I guess make them the ultimate damage. Like, you know, those bullets that when the bullet hits the object, they blow up.
Yeah, you're talking about that so-called the hollow caps and so on. So see, the purpose of gun is to kill, right?
Yeah.
And so we want the gun to do most of the damage. So what we found out is that a bullet that stays inside of the victim or target give entire energy to that animal or person, and versus a bullet that just passes through. A bullet that passes through takes a lot of energy of the bullet outside. And as well, on the other side, some people who advocate that and say that you definitely don't want somebody behind the first person to be hit. So make entire energy to be dissipated in the first person, so no unintended damages are done to other people. So, and then we have now this kind of bullet that they have hollow point. What that means that when they hit, they deform and they give the entire energy. Obviously, then they do unbelievable damage to the tissue.
Were those created to do damage to humans or animals?
Both. They're created to literally that you stop whatever you want to stop with the first shot. Like, you know, sometimes they tell you if you're in Alaska, you have to have a 45 caliber hollow point, because if you have a bear and you shoot them with like 22 caliber, they're going to come angrier at you.
Yeah. But another scary thing to me about guns is like the evolution of guns again. Every gun has a serial number, and the serial number is linked to the purchaser or the owner of the gun.
Yeah.
But now, what?
No, I'm listening. Yeah.
But it's pretty common for criminals to file. You can file the serial number, and you can also
illegal, which is by
it's
itself,
illegal.
That by itself is a felony.
Yes. And you can also do things to the barrel of the gun so that the ballistic testing doesn't come. It's harder to figure out like what kind of gun shot the bullet. Something
Actually,
like
if you do anything to the barrel of the gun, that makes it more identifiable.
No, but what I'm saying is so then when you find the bullet, it's harder to be able to tell what type of gun.
Yeah,
Harder to track it back.
Yeah, I can imagine where you're going there, but more individual you make the gun, it's more identifiable, will be based on the ballistic. But I know where you are going.
But to me, it's really scary that now with technology, we can 3D print a gun and that you can't track it back.
And you can print a one-time use gun. As a matter of fact, somebody did that. Somebody even uploaded. You see, we have something called freedom of information or First Amendment that you can actually put, and you know, it's right online. You can get the 3D files that in your house you can print on the plastic a 3D gun, and it works actually. That's the dangerous part. It works. It doesn't work. You can maybe shoot a 1 or 2 bullet, but it works, and that is so. I'm happy. I'm very happy that we don't have to deal with that, because the actual damage from that is not really. I mean, there's not like tons of people going and printing 3D guns and start doing violent crimes and so on, that we have to be worried about that. And part of that is, I think, people who are smart enough to really do it, they find better hobbies than print 3D guns and commit crimes.
I don't agree with you on that at all. I think that there's a lot of criminals out there who are highly intelligent people. They
Mhm.
just dedicate their energy to different things. If your goal is to make money, if you don't care about you don't care about killing people, you don't care about families that you destroy, you just want to make money, you just want to sell these guns to criminals, you're going to do it and you're going to make a lot of money doing that.
Well, the fact is, right now, at least statistically, we don't have to be worried about that. And maybe you should cut out this part so people don't actually know,
Why don't we
that-
have to be worried about that?
because the statistically it's not being done. It's not like we have a lots of crime being committed with 3D printed gun at this point. We don't have any, or maybe to my best knowledge, we don't have a single crime committed by 3D plastic 3D printed guns.
But you can do 3D printing with metal.
Oh yeah, but then what's the advantage? Then you just go and buy a gun.
Well, let's say you can't buy a gun. Let's say you're a felon.
Oh, I'm pretty sure in United States, with the right amount of money, doesn't matter who you are and what your background is, you can buy a gun.
Yeah, you just made my point. There's a market for it.
But you don't have to print it. You can just go and buy this easier,
Yeah.
cheaper.
But I think if you're a felon, you can't go to the store. You can't go to Walmart and buy your gun anymore. You're not allowed.
Felon don't go to Walmart to buy a gun. They go to the corner of the street buy a gun.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
It's impossible to state the exact number of crimes committed using 3D guns because they lack serial numbers and they're very difficult to trace.
Okay.
But growing recoveries in report analyzing data from more than 50 US cities, the number of 3D printed guns recovered at crime scenes increased from 32 in 2020 to 325 in 2024. That's a 1,000% increase.
Okay, well, 300, considering that we have like 500 million guns in the United States, okay, 300 of them were 3D printed. Okay.
Yeah, a 1,000% increase in just 4 years. So that was 2 years ago. I mean, we could have had another 500% increase in the last 2 years. You don't know where we're going to be in 2 more years. I'm just saying, if you increase it 1,000% every 4 years, that's pretty scary.
Well, that's lots of other things are scary. The regular guns and the regulation that we have that you can go buy a high capacity magazine and automatic guns. I think that's more scary than this. Yeah, we have a lot of things to think about how we are going to regulate our environment and make sure that the people who shouldn't have gun don't have gun. I agree with you on that.
I think that's the scariest part is just the people who shouldn't have guns just should not have that's more dangerous than anything. People who shouldn't have guns having access to them.
Yeah, there are days I'm happy you don't have a gun.
How do you know?
Because you're anti-gun. That's the reason.
I'm anti a few things that I still
Well, I think we wrapped it up. It's not much of a history, but it's more about the impact of the guns on our current American society. Certainly, we talked a little about the history of the gun, but mostly we talked about the current socioeconomic aspect of gun ownership in the United States, but which I hate to say that is not positive. There's nothing positive about that. I can say of owning a gun. Now, I'm a gun owner myself, but I don't believe that overall that is there's a positive thing of owning a gun in the United States.
Yeah. I think certain people do need to have guns, of course. Like our friend Aaron.
Yeah.
He needs to have a gun. Like he needs to protect his cows.
Yeah. Did you know regular police officer in England don't have guns?
I did know that. I was going to bring it up, but we kind of It was just rolling so fast. I did know that.
Can you imagine that? It's
I
hard
can't
for us in
imagine
United.
I can't imagine that in the US. No.
No, no, but it is hard for us in America to imagine that the regular police officer they have access to gun, but the regular police that are going on the street and so on, they don't have guns. I think um, well, we always say how polite British people are and so on, and so they maybe ask politely, please don't commit a crime and so on, and criminals listen. Oh, sorry, I got caught. Okay, I don't commit it anymore and so on. But for us, it's unbelievable to even consider that the police officers in a country don't have guns.
Do you want us a little breakdown of police deaths in the US versus in the UK?
Well, that would be a very sad statistic, probably.
Well, I'm just saying. So in 2025, 111 law enforcement officers died in the line of duty in 2025 in the US.
Mhm. I bet in the United Kingdom was zero or one or two.
Um,
Well, but overall, I think, and that as well is why our police officers are more trigger happy than any other police officer, because our police officers do experience threat and death all the time. So because guns are out there, so that obviously makes them trigger happy.
so
Then
actually, like, this is pretty interesting to me. The deaths, the US law enforcement on duty deaths versus in the UK were actually very comparable. 111 died in the US in the line of duty, and in the UK in 24-25, more died actually. 155 died in the line of duty. And
hmm,
I have a breakdown. So in the US, 44 were killed from firearms, 34 from traffic related, and then 33 like just various like medical accidents, stuff like that.
okay, but we are talking today only about the gunshot injury that caused police officers' death, right?
No, we're just talking about police line of duty fatalities because I'm thinking the reason I'm thinking of it like this is because in the US, your gun is to protect you. The gun is to protect at the end of the day, the gun is to protect the police officer and the people around. It's not to kill people. That's not the point. So in the UK, there were two fatal police shootings.
That is what I'm talking about. That
Yeah. So in the US, 44 died from the gun. In the UK, two.
okay, and that is what I'm referring to because traffic accident, and that is certainly a big part of our fatality. No matter if you're police or anybody else, the traffic accident are a really big deal. But I don't believe that necessarily is worsening. I don't know, maybe some, but that's not what I'm referring to. Either way, I think our relationship with the gun is not going to change in the United States, but our cultural um, acceptance of pulling gun, that absolutely has to change. We cannot continue as a civilized society to believe that, if you have a disagreement with somebody, even if they're nasty, even if they're in your face, as long as they are not the actual danger to your life, that you just pull a gun out. And that is why I have a lot of problem with lots of these Republican states to stand your ground. No, don't stand your ground. Just go away. I mean, just because somebody is there and you were there first, I don't believe that we should accept that it is okay to just stand your ground, or this castle doctrine, meaning if somebody else is in your house, you're okay to shoot them no matter what. No, first, in some places, they say, yeah, you can protect yourself, but if they're in your house, but they're not danger to your life, don't make it a fatal thing. I know some people may disagree with me on that, but as a doctor, that's who I am. every life is sacred, every life is worth saving, and not the punishment for a lot. There are lots of things that the punishment for that should not be death.
I agree. I agree 100%. A human life is sacred. And I think it's disgusting that an 11-year-old can knock on your door and you can shoot him through the door and be okay with that and actually not face consequences.
It is disgusting. That part, I mean, killing children at any level and anything is
Killing any human, that is not your right. You don't get to say, you don't get to choose.
um I want to end this on a more a little maybe a different note and so on. You remember I told you that I don't have joy in killing animal. I love to eat meat. I'm a eat meater.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things
Peter.
I'm a meat eater. Yeah, I said that if I kill an animal, I'm going to eat it, no matter what that animal is. If it's a coyote or a wild boar or whatever, a possum, a raccoon, and so on. We should make that like that, okay? If you kill a living being, you have to eat it.
Yeah, I agree.
So
I don't think anything should go to waste.
no, imagine now if somebody kills a person, has to eat it.
I mean, it wouldn't be the first time, not even in the US.
Well, that I bet that really that even the hardest criminal will be softened by that probably.
I
So
hope so.
here you go to prison. Here's your food the next year. That's what you're going to eat. Okay,
At the
well,
end of the day,
that's a joke. That's a joke. Okay,
at the end of the day, guns should be for protection.
I can agree with that, if anything. Well, let's wrap it up. It was the interesting, mostly personal stories about how we see the gun rather than history of the gun, but it still was interesting.
It was a little historical. We had some tidbits. Thank you guys for watching. This was Essence of History, and we talked about guns. I'm Amanda Armagast.
And I'm Dr.